And we're back! Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's
I feel like every time we do the intro for these, we just have like the split-second moment of forgetting our names. But I'm Allan.
Stop.
We're back with another podcast.
Yep. It's a good one this time.
Mm-hmm.
Today we're going to be talking about...
Music!
There's nothing even there because we don't edit these.
No.
They'll be editing, right? Like
We're old school.
Yeah, we are old school. So, today we're going to be talking about something music-related.
Yes.
Surprising to no one. We've been doing a lot of music stuff.
Yeah.
Reason being is, I don't know, music is a very big part of our lives, especially now. But it's not all going to be music, so it's just, we're kind of going through a music phase right now. So this is Allan&HoostanProgram, correct, right?
Yeah, in a sense, because usually it would be, for this video, it would be Allan Who's Done Who, because we're talking about a certain artist or band, but...
So Allan&HoostanProgram we are doing today. This was good planning on my part. I didn't really think of that before. No, it was my part, but anyway, so yeah, welcome to Allan&HoostanProgram. I guess the intro really doesn't change regardless, but this is basically a podcast, a video podcast where we talk about a specific person or band, and this podcast we're going to be talking about Foreigner. And this is a band that I really like. It's a good band that I don't know. I was gonna say a good band that I listen to, but obviously if I didn't listen to it, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't listen to it. So I like Foreigner. AJ, do you like Foreigner?
Yeah, I like Foreigner. They're not one of my favorite bands. I'm more of like, because they kind of have like similar styles, kind of to like Journey. And I'm more of a Journey fan, but I do respect Journey. I actually like Journey. They are very underrated. I like Lou Gramm. He's if anything in my mind, a top 10 vocalist of all time. Like I think he's got like the musicality, the technical vocal ability, just everything. I like, Mick Jones, who is the guitarist of the band, very underrated. And I believe the drummer's name is Dennis Elliott. I did some research on a lot of the members, and he's a drummer that has a really distinct style. Like when you hear songs like Double Vision, Cold as Ice, Feels Like the First Time, Jukebox Hero, and Urgent. It's like, it's like when you hear the drums, like, it could be either simple or it could be intricate. It's just an all-around great drummer and all-around great band. So.
I think that was well said. I don't even really know how we would structure this one because we technically both know about what Foreigner is. I'm not really teaching anything new to AJ, and AJ's not really teaching me anything because we both know about the band. It's kind of the first time we kind of ran into something like this. I guess since the Led Zeppelin one we did. Mm-hmm. So I think what we could do, instead of teaching each other about it, we could just sit back and talk about Foreigner.
That can be another big thing too, like for future Allan&HoostanWho parts. So that way it could be easier for people to understand so they don't get confused. Like from this point on, tell me what you think. We'll do Allan&HoostanWho's, but like for not only just for showing like each other new artists and stuff, but to also just sit back and talk about a certain thing. Because I think that's cool. Like with this episode today, because we figured with Foreigner, we have a lot to talk about because we've talked about it in the past about a lot of things about the band that honestly should be said. Because they're a very underappreciated band, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. So we should do that for this point on. Either if it's a Allan&HoostanWho episode where I'll show him, for example, Cream, or he has an episode where he shows me the Doors. Let's say, for example, I know who the Doors are, but the idea of that, showing each other new things, we'll have that, and then we'll have what we're doing kind of now, where we just talk about a band that we are familiar with.
Yep. So. I think that actually brings up a very good point that we were actually talking about yesterday when we were kind of preparing and gathering ideas. We both figured that we're going to run into this big issue and we're going to address it. The big issue is that, there's not enough time between our podcasts and us hanging out as friends to listen to full discographies. It is very difficult to do that. I know when we started this out, we were going to hit up all of the artists that we could. We did, I think, Dan Fogelberg, and we've done Led Zeppelin and Smashing Pumpkins. Now, those were bands that we have went through on our own. They weren't for the sake of the Allan and Houston and Who program. It was more of just a personal thing. We just liked them. AJ likes Led Zeppelin. He listened to it on his own, not because of the podcast, but just to do it on his own. Same thing with me with Dan Fogelberg, and same thing with AJ with Smashing Pumpkins. But we're kind of running into a rut, and with Foreigner, this is a good example of it, where we don't know much about Foreigner's songs to stay like, let's go through the album, for instance. So I think that's kind of a problem we should address. That going forward, we're going to be going with artists that we don't know all too much about, but we like a good amount of their songs.
And have a coherent understanding of who they are.
Yep. So we might even have some artists where, like Jerry Lee Lewis, that's a guy I only know maybe 3 or 4 songs about. And but I love to feature him on our show. And AJ, has his own guys he wants to feature on our show as well. These, of course, we know what the grand scheme of this show is. We're bringing people on our show that, a lot of them are not here with us anymore. Jerry Lee Lewis is one of those, as well as some of these other guys. So there's plenty of artists we want to go through. We don't know too much about them. We can promise that we can do it, but, let's be honest, we like kind of doing it at our own pace. Mm-hmm. And so, being completely real with you guys, we're not going to know all of these songs. So maybe we'll find a workaround. Maybe we'll listen. We'll have Allan Houston and Who's where we just listen to songs we never even heard of before. We could do that. I don't know. But I think we go with the flow, and that's how it'll go. So today we're going to try something new. So without further ado, let's talk about Foreigner. Let's just throw out a random song, AJ. Just a random song. We'll talk about it.
So this is actually a decent amount of Foreigner songs that are really good that I like. But out of the ones that I know, I feel like a song that I really like is Feels Like the First Time, which was from their debut album, I believe, and it's the very first song that starts off the album.
Really? So that is technically their first song.
Let me just double check. Sorry, I know,
it's fine.
I just want to make sure that...
This is something I'm kind of glad that we do now, that we fact check them. Not only do we kind of go off of our minds, but we also double check. Mm-hmm. So that's good.
So it is confirmed that Feels Like the First Time is the first song on the debut album, so I was correct. So yes, that song, in my opinion, is really good because Foreigner, I'll do some context first, so that way I feel like I can help bring the point I'm about to bring about that song across.
Okay.
So Foreigner is a band that I believe is very underappreciated. Yes, they are very popular, but in my opinion, they are very underappreciated because... Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I really shouldn't say underappreciated. They're a little tad, underrated. Overrated in the sense where it's you hear them on the radio, so whether it's on FM radio or even Sirius, which is whether if it's 70s on 7, 80s on 8, because those two eras were the 70s and the 80s were really they're the mid to late 70s, early 80s were they're literally their prime, and this is where they were on the radio and they were hitting the radio waves and everyone listened to their songs on the radio and they got so much radio play. But they are a little bit more overrated because, when you're on the radio, you'll hear it feels like the first time, or I want to know what love is, or cold as ice. But they are a good band, and I respect them because they were, and this was a thought that I actually thought about to myself when we were kind of prepping, getting the stuff ready for this episode. They were a band where, they were an impactful band for the popular radio kind of idea because, nowadays, like I said, the channels before, when you're on 70s on 7 on Sirius, 80s on 8, Classic Rewind, or even FM radio, whether it's, wherever you are in your area, their songs are played all the time. And that idea of coming up in music at that time, that was the big goal as a band or an artist, you wanted your songs heard on the radio. You wanted people to know who you are and what you're bringing to the table. And Foreigner was a big key band, and for like that hard rock, like arena rock type stuff, and even some pop rock stuff as well. So like when you hear Feels Like the First Time, so the song I chose that one because that is a perfect, like, nice, solid, rockin' song for like the radio, and not just for radio reasons, but like just for pure enjoyment because our parents grew up with that song, and because that exemplifies like what they grew up with, and now that we love that music they do, and we discover this, that song just to me captivates and really just what's the word I'm trying to put it? It just really exemplifies that just pure just rock. Whether it's not too hard rock, it's not too whatever, it's just simple rock and roll. Put it on the radio, and everyone knows the song. Like when it comes on, you know it. So that's a song that I really think is really good. So how about you?
Personally, I've grown a liking for Jukebox Hero.
That is a really good song. Very, very good.
I think that the main chorus is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
This is a song that, honestly, I love Foreigner, but I never really heard until AJ brought it to my attention. Surprisingly.
Jukebox Hero?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it.
That was a song, like, that's one of my favorites of all time. Like, I think the classic, like, the first few lines that Lou Gramm delivers, the standing in the rain with his head hung low, couldn't get a ticket, it was a sold out show, and so on. Like, that's just like so iconic, and just the guitar solo that Mick Jones does in the middle, and it's just like he said, the chorus was great, the background vocals was great. Another great song from that album, that same album, is a song that you actually like. I know you tell me you like it. And I've been kind of like, going around it a little bit more often. Urgent.
Urgent is good.
Yeah. Urgent is good. The saxophone solo.
Yeah. I love how in the 80s, like, we had a lot of those real saxophone. Like I feel like nowadays, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm kind of hoping I'm wrong here. But I feel like I've heard saxophones in more modern songs. Like, I know The Weeknd has a few of his songs. I guess we're kind of going to more modern stuff quick. Where he has a saxophone in it. And, I kind of hope, like, that's real. Because, I think a lot of the modern saxophoning is all digital. I don't really know if there really is it.
I can understand what you're saying.
Here, I'm gonna fact check it on my home button iPhone.
Go for it. To bring up a point, I kind of understand, it's not really the same as it was, because like back in the day, around like the 70s, 80s, there was a lot of like subgenres within rock, I guess you could say, that were using saxophones. Like, for example, there's a band called Steely Dan, and they were more of like a fusion, like jazz, kind of like yacht rock kind of guy, like where they would just get a bunch of talented musicians together, and a lot of them would use saxophones. They get a lot of saxophone players. So maybe at that time, because that was such like a big thing, and they wanted to keep that going, so I can understand. Maybe I could be wrong. It's just a point that I wanted to bring up.
Not bad. Let's see. Background release. Personnel. Here we go. Okay. Alto saxophone. I guess that counts, right? So there's an alto saxophone. There's a tenor saxophone. So maybe there is some real saxophone skills in there.
Oh, yeah.
There's also a trumpet, 2 trumpets, and a trombone.
Is this in?
This is in Your Eyes by The Weeknd.
Okay.
In Your Eyes. I don't know if you heard that song. Okay. So we fact checked it. So that is interesting. But I guess there's really nothing else I can say, because there's actually modern proof that they still kind of use that saxophone stuff. But I loved saxophones being included in songs. I think it's phenomenal, and I like that Foreigner also thought the same thing, that it was a good addition to their song.
Adds so much. It adds to the song. Like when you're hearing Urgent, you hear like like the guitar and like the drums and his vocals, and I like the part in the chorus where it's like Urgent, and you hear like the synthesizer, because for the longest time growing up, I did not know what that was, because it was like it was like kind of sci-fi type thing, and I like that. And then the saxophone just comes out of nowhere, and it's like it just adds so much to the song.
And he's like really blaring on it too.
Yeah, he's Lily riding that solo. He's really putting his heart out, and it was great. I like that.
I think I did research on it, that the guy that actually did the saxophone was a real saxophonist, not like just one of the guys in Foreigner that picked up a saxophone. They actually got an actual saxophone player to actually do the saxophone part, and I think that this guy has also been included in other hit songs with saxophones in them.
Do you by any chance know the name of the guy?
I do not. I'm not that professional.
I'm trying to think, because I know the reason why I said you brought that up, because like I know that there's this like renowned like saxophone guy who's been in a lot of things, and his name's Wayne Shorter.
I don't know if that was him.
I read on, yeah, I'm doing some too, but I know that I'm trying to think, because back to this example of Steely Dan, on one of their popular albums called Asia, and the song Asia, there's the drum solo by legendary session guy musician Steve Gadd, and this guy Wayne Shorter, who does a saxophone solo, and he did a lot of the saxophone on that album as well. So I was kind of thinking, maybe because you said that he's a renowned guy and he's done work with other artists, I was kind of thinking, do you think it's maybe that Wayne Shorter guy? Because that would be
two guys.
Oh, it was two.
So
guys.
there, I didn't even know that. Because I mean, when you hear the song, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same guy that does the saxophone solo does the saxophone throughout the song, right?
Yeah.
Two different guys.
So there's one guy who's doing like the that builds it up, and then there's the guy.
No, there's the guy in the background where you hear it. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, like that. But I think that's a solo. I think it still counts as a solo. If you hear in the background of Urgent, there's a saxophone within the song.
Okay.
So let's do the guy that
did the solo.
Yeah, let's do that.
Or just did the saxophone and.
All right, let's do saxophone first. We'll do saxophone. So it's Mark Rivera. So that's cool. He is mostly known for his work with Billy Joel. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see what songs. I'm gonna imagine he played on "It's Rock and Roll." Has to be.
Good song.
That's a good song.
Good song.
Sledgehammer. He played on Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. Sledgehammer.
I think I know that. I heard of the song. I know who Peter Gabriel is. Genius of an artist, but I'm not entirely sure about Sledgehammer. But
I know Ringo Starr.
Huh?
He joined Ringo Starr.
Recently or back
in 1995.
Oh, okay.
He played, adding to the Sledgehammer, he played Sledgehammer in Big Time, Simon and Garfunkel, John Lennon, Billy Ocean, and Eagles guitarist Joe Walsh. That's who he's worked with. Hall & Oates, Tycoon, Peter Gabriel, obviously. His first solo album was released in 2014, and this man has been going since the mid-70s.
Wow.
So that goes to tell you, it really doesn't matter how old you are, and he's 69. So you subtract a few years, he was roughly almost 60 years old, and he went solo. So that's a cool thing. I think we should talk about like solo artists, because there's plenty of them.
That's absolutely mind-blowing.
But it goes to show you that it really doesn't matter, if the person's like past their prime, they could always be solo.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Junior Walker is the guy who does the solo. He's not around anymore. He was a multi-instrumentalist, primarily a saxophonist, and a vocalist who recorded for Motown during the 60s. So this guy has true heritage in Motown, which is what Motown and saxophone kind of goes hand in hand. So that is pretty cool. He also performed as a session and live performing saxophonist with the band Foreigner in 1980. or in the 1980s. This guy worked from 1945 until his death in 1995. That's always nice to see that. A lot of these guys, they'll go for long periods of time, and they would, they don't really retire, which, I get it. Some people do have to retire, but it is really cool to see that some people just keep going further than others. Let's see. You want to see discography? You want to see his career? What do you want to see?
This is discography.
Let's see. These are all his own.
All right, maybe go through his career. Probably find something maybe.
Let's see.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna look up some interesting facts about that 4 album that had Jukebox Hero, and because I kind of want to see.
Good.
So, the studio that they recorded in with this album was at the Electric Lady Studio in New York, and Mick Jones, the guitarist, was also produced the album, as well as legendary producer Robert John Mutt Lang, who was a very, very, very famous producer. They both produced the album. Also,
what's that one?
4.
Yeah, that it says he did the sax solo on there. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
I'm gonna say no. You're good. Interesting fact. It says here the album name represented the band's 4th studio album, and also the band's reduction from 6 to 4 members.
Not bad. It doesn't really show that much. He did like a lot of covers. He was number 1 on the R&B chart in 1965. He followed many other hits such as "I'm a Roadrunner." How Sweet Is to Be Loved by You. I know of that song. Shotgun. A lot of stuff I don't know, but that is really cool that he was a part of Motown. Like I said, that's historically where the saxophone has had a big influence. So it is really cool to see that, that true heritage still carries over into Foreigner, which is an 80s band for the most part. And that's pretty impressive.
It is impressive.
Not gonna lie. So while AJ's looking at, we're gonna do our quick intermission, which means I'm gonna check the time. Okay, I just checked the time, so the intermission's over. Not bad. So we got 22 minutes in of discussions thus far. That's pretty cool. There's a lot of Foreigner stuff to talk about, despite the fact we don't know all that much about a lot of the discography. It seems like I think we got the hang of this.
No, yeah. I just read that, it mentioned about for urgent, because when I went on the album and the track listing, you can be able to click on the song and get the details about it. Talked about, what was the guy's name? Junior Walker?
Yep.
How he did the sax solo, and I think there was a guy who did the synthesizer part. So,
okay.
It's very interesting. That album definitely sets, because it also said, this album was the new shift from their hard rock sound to their more pop, soft rock sound. You can definitely hear it in those 2 songs, but it definitely is interesting. Those 2 songs bring a really unique vibe to the song. And even there's a song on there that I actually used to like listening to. It's called "Waiting for a Girl Like You."
That's a good song.
Which is it is a very good song. But definitely Urgent and Jukebox Hero are really good songs.
I agree. Urgent's definitely one of my favorite Foreigner songs. Probably one of my favorite 80s songs. The saxophone part has a lot to do with it. Ironically, not saved to my playlist. It's weird.
I think it's not mine.
See, we got the representation. AJ is the representative for me.
Yeah.
So what other Foreigner stuff is there to really talk about?
I think there's one we can talk about.
All right. Oh, good night, everyone.
No table was hurt in the making of this video.
Thank God. That's a sturdy table.
But anyway, so I guess we could talk about something we actually really talked about and wanted to say. And it kind of alludes to this idea that we were going to make a video about it, but we may just focus on it with just Foreigner. The idea that Foreigner, knowing the success that they have and what they were known for, and the albums they sold, and all the songs, the popular songs on the Billboard charts, they're not even in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. No, I'm kidding.
I heard what?
What? No, it's You know what's funny that we did that, like that little, I guess, sketch.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because the way it actually went in real life was the total opposite of that.
We were like,
because I found out about it,
and you told
then AJ was like, "What?"
Yeah, I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" Like Foreigner.
But for the sake, we're gonna give AJ credit. That's why we did the little skit type thing. So
yeah,
that was a fictional version of what happened.
No, but when I was surprised, like when Justin told me that, and I was like, "You're joking, right? Like you're meaning to tell me that Foreigner, one of the most influential bands of all time, one of the most influential late '70s to early '80s bands of all time, who freaking sold so many albums, sold out shows, is on the radio 24/7, is not even in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous. They deserve to be there because of the impact that they had. My opinion.
Yeah. We gotta start a petition.
We should start a petition. We need to get Foreigner in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's what we're gonna call this podcast.
Lou, we are doing this for you.
We're doing this for Lou. Lou for you and the other two.
And Mick. And Mick Jones. And I don't know if Dennis Elliott is still in the band, whoever else, but definitely for you two and the whole band of Foreigner for their legacy. They need to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with every artist. Instantaneously.
Like by the time this thing comes out, I want to look out the window and like see them adding. I don't know. We don't live that close to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
But I want to see somewhere on Instagram or TikTok saying for next year, whatever, Foreigner is getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
The Hollywood Walk of Fame. They need to have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame as well.
Considering,
But I think they are, though. I feel like they are.
Yeah, but that's also funny. If they are on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Why don't... okay, so I think what they should do is they'll take the star and why not move it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
There you go.
Like a team effort. We'll get Lou. Lou will help pick up the star. We'll all get together and we'll all lift up the star and walk it 25 blocks down.
And then me and Mick will just be supporting you guys on.
There you go. So no, we're not actually doing that. Imagine in a
that
perfect world.
But we're trying to express how we Foreigner fans, not crazed Foreigner fans, but fans of their songs, they need to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They do.
Yeah. There's really no other way to say it. There's really nothing else to add. Because it's simple. They need to be within that I don't even know how to explain it. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where you have a lot of people who they've influenced also in there, yet you don't have them in there.
And bands that influenced them and they were trying to replicate them, but also be their own thing. It's like, they deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just like everyone else because so many people grew up with them and so many people know their songs.
So. I can agree. Yeah. Foreigner, you guys need to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Any other Foreigner-related things to add?
I guess the only thing I could say is one last song that I like. Because I know there's other ones, but I'll just mention one more. I really am a fan of Double Vision. Double Vision is a great song because I was getting towards the end of the 70s. It was 77, 78. I think 77. It's towards the mid late 70s.
It's just taking the time.
No, I'll sum this up real quick.
No, we got time. It's 28 minutes. We got time.
Okay. And on that album you had Hot Blooded and it was another great song. But Double Vision I like because from everything. I like the riff. I like the guitar riff in the beginning. I like the drum beat that leads into the actual part where Lou Gramm sings. I like the part in the chorus where you hear the harmonizing vocals he does, and then I like the part at the end where they do that echoing kind of thing. I was like, this man literally has the vocal talent of with Steve Perry. I'm not comparing both of them. I mean, they both are great artists in their own each ways, but I just like that song because it's a nice, how the other songs on the Jukebox Hero and all the other songs are. It's a great song, when you hear on the radio. It's just a great song. So
well said. I think that was that was just well said as a whole. I think that this was a well put together podcast.
I think it was.
This is our first time trying out the new Allan and Houstan thing. AJ, what do you think of it? Like, do you think should we learn more about these, like the I don't know how to explain it. Should we learn more about songs from artists that we don't know much about?
I mean, it wasn't nothing wrong with it. So that way we can be able to gain more knowledge and show more appreciation. But I mean, we shouldn't have to force it. Like how we always say, we're gonna dive into all like these discographies. Like it should come naturally to us. Like if we don't want to, then hey, at least we know a general amount about the band. But
no, I know that. What I mean more of not so much jumping into the discographies, because I know, like me, I couldn't do it. I couldn't.
No.
But I'm more of saying, like, kind of like what we did last time. Last time we filmed, we did Dan Fogelberg. And we went through the songs. And we did Smashing Pumpkins, and we listened to the songs. How would you feel if we implemented that into videos where we don't know about, like, the artist all too well? Where we might listen to songs we both have never heard before. So, like, in the case of Foreigner, just because we're using Foreigner in this episode, as an example, what if we listened to a Foreigner song and just kind of gave our thoughts on it? We both never heard the song before.
I'd be down.
I think that could be kind of a cool way we can, like, do it with future Allan&Hoostan programs, because, we listen to a lot of the same music because we grew attached to, like, certain artists. We listen to the same songs. So I think the best way to do it is right on the spot. Just pick a random song that you don't know, and I mean, you don't know until you listen. So we might find a song that we really like.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but any final thoughts? I don't even know why we're laughing like that. We're very weird.
We are
Very weird individuals. I think what we could do is, because we're at 32 minutes, to round it off, me and Allan are going to be thinking about starting a new series. Guess we could kind of have this be the backdoor pilot type thing.
Yeah.
So what is this series about? I would say, like, what's the name, but we
didn't really think of a
last
name.
minute.
We didn't really think of a name. And we really didn't even think about what the show was going to be about or whatever it's going to be.
So in other words, we didn't plan it, but we have a rough idea.
We had a rough sketch idea that's going to be a beta test, because like we have this process where it's like when we have an idea, we do a beta test to see if we want to go through with it or not. If we like it, then we'll continue. But if not, if it's one time thing. Like the skit thing we did.
We did a skit thing. Yeah, they don't know about the skit thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did a skit thing that we were going to air, but we realized that it just didn't really fit with what we did. There was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't anything we really regret or anything like that. There's a huge possibility we could upload it. We might. I don't know. I'm pretty sure the video is lying around somewhere on someone's camera roll. But, we realized, is this something that we want to have as a series? Because the difference between doing like a one-off and a series is a series you've got to update every once in a while. Sort of like what Allan, Houstan, and Who, we update this series by putting out the Allan and Houstan and Who's. Same thing with the Allan&HoostanProgram. To keep that thing updated, we put out the Allan&HoostanProgram podcasts. This one, if we were like to do the skit versus, we would have to, make skits every once in a while. And skits require constant thought as to, like, how are we going to make this funny? And are people going to end up getting the joke that we're trying to put across? Because different people find different things funny. So, because humor is subjective. So, we didn't really think it would really work with our style. But on that topic, that's what we're doing. That's the process we're doing with this one. We're going to do a beta test. We are planning to put it up. If it goes well, put it up. If not, then, well, it will disappear from the face of everything. But we could talk kind of about roughly what it is. I guess let's just call it the developmental name is what I'm calling Jam Out. jamming out. Where quite simply, me and AJ are going to be jamming out.
Yeah. So me on the drums.
Yep.
And him on keyboards. I know it's a weird mix, but.
But there might be some episodes where, because I forget the keyboard, like today, he told me, bring the keyboard. Okay, forgot the keyboard. So I might be the vocalist. Now, first off, let's not bring him into this because he's really good at drumming. A lot of you guys might be thinking, well, how are you going to put together a show when you have a very talented drummer and an untalented person like me?
Not very talented, but.
Well, at least you know how to do it. Oh, here's the thing. It's going to be more for humor's sake. I think that this is a fun way for me and AJ to just have fun. And the series allows us to reflect back on our most unproud moments with me singing like Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin trying to impersonate Elvis. These are things that should be locked away on the internet for the rest of my life. So that way I can constantly look back and say, wow, I know I can't do singing. If ever looking for like career opportunities, I'm like, yeah, can't do that, can't do this. Yeah, definitely not going to be in a band anytime soon. But it's all pretty much for fun. It's a good way for AJ to expand on his own craft because AJ is actually going to be playing drums like an actual talented drummer, and me, I'm going to be shooting my own way and doing my own thing.
Yep.
Attempting to play the keyboard. So you'll see a lot of fun, stupid things. Like my keyboard that I use to bring over here is capable of being a drum machine. So I think that would be really fun if we did a drum off a piano.
Me doing all of like these fills and stuff, and then like I'm versing the
drum machine.
I'm versing the drum machine thing on the keyboard. It's gonna be interesting, but I think it would be fun.
It'd be worth a shot. Yeah. Anyways, so I think that's the end of today's podcast.
Yeah.
Wow. It was a fun one today.
It was fun.
I want to thank everyone for watching these podcasts. We love making these. Love making them. And to many more. So without further ado,
I'm Allan.
And I'm Hoostan, and we will see you in the next podcast. And I'm going to run over like a horse.